Welcome to the 5-Minute Warfare podcast from 5minutewarfare.com, where we dive into history's most pivotal battles and military strategies in around 5 minutes. Episode 2. The Battle of Hastings. How William Conquered England. The Battle of Hastings, fought on the 14th of October 1066, was one of the most significant events in British history, marking the beginning of the Norman conquest of England. This decisive clash between the forces of William, Duke of Normandy, and King Harold II of England reshaped the political, cultural, and social landscape of England, and its legacy continues to be felt to this day. William's victory at Hastings not only won him the English crown, but also brought Norman influence to the forefront of English society, transforming the kingdom in profound ways. The roots of the conflict lay in a disputed claim to the English throne. In January 1066, King Edward the Confessor died without a direct heir, sparking a succession crisis. Edward had allegedly promised the throne to William of Normandy years earlier, a claim reinforced by William's assertion that Harold Godwinson, the most powerful nobleman in England and brother-in-law to Edward, had sworn an oath to support William's claim. Despite this, upon Edward's death, Harold was quickly crowned king, with the support of the English nobility. William, angered by what he saw as a betrayal, began preparing an invasion to enforce his claim. He secured papal approval for his cause, portraying his campaign as a righteous effort to secure a throne that was rightfully his. This religious endorsement gave William's cause greater legitimacy and attracted support from Norman nobles and other adventurers across Europe. He gathered a formidable army, consisting of infantry, archers and cavalry, and a fleet of ships to transport them across the Channel. Meanwhile, Harold II faced threats on multiple fronts. In September 1066, just weeks before the Battle of Hastings, Harold had to march north to defend his kingdom from a Viking invasion led by Harald Hardrada, King of Norway, who also claimed the English throne. At the Battle of Stamford Bridge, Harold's forces defeated the Norwegians in a hard-fought victory, killing Hardrada and ending the Viking threat. However, the victory came at a cost. Harold's army was exhausted from the long march and the battle, and he was now forced to quickly turn south to confront William's invasion. William landed on the south coast of England at Pevensey in late September 1066, virtually unopposed. Harold, after his victory in the north, hurried south with his army, but his troops were weary and depleted from the previous battle. Despite this, Harold chose to engage William's forces without waiting for additional reinforcements from across the kingdom. The stage was set for a decisive battle that would determine the fate of the English crown. On the morning of the 14th of October, 1066, the two armies met near the town of Hastings. Harold's army took up a defensive position on Senlac Hill, a ridge that offered them a strong vantage point. His troops, primarily composed of infantry, formed a shield wall, a traditional Anglo-Saxon defensive tactic in which soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder, their shields overlapping to create a solid barrier. This formation was highly effective in resisting frontal assaults, and Harold hoped it would hold against William's attacks. William's forces, on the other hand, were a mix of infantry, archers, and cavalry, giving him greater flexibility in his tactics. The battle began with a volley of arrows from William's archers, but these were largely ineffective against the shield wall. William then ordered his infantry and cavalry to charge uphill at the English position. However, the steep incline, combined with the discipline of the English soldiers, initially frustrated the Norman attacks, and the shield wall held firm. At one point, a rumour spread among the Norman troops that William had been killed, causing panic and disorder within his ranks. Sensing an opportunity, some of Harold's men pursued the retreating Normans down the hill, breaking their defensive formation. William, however, quickly rallied his troops, showing his face to prove he was alive, and counterattacked the pursuing English forces. This feigned retreat became a turning point in the battle. It lured parts of Harold's army away from their strong defensive position, weakening the shield wall. Taking advantage of this, William launched repeated assaults, using a combination of archers, infantry, and cavalry. The Normans' use of cavalry, in particular, was decisive, as the English had little experience in dealing with mounted troops. Over the course of the day, the shield wall, which had been so effective early in the battle, began to weaken under the relentless pressure from the Normans. According to popular tradition, the decisive moment came when Harold II was killed, possibly struck by an arrow in the eye, though some accounts suggest he may have been cut down in the final Norman assault. With Harold's death, the morale of the English army collapsed, and many of his remaining troops fled the battlefield. By the end of the day, William had secured a complete victory. Following his triumph at Hastings, William moved swiftly to consolidate his hold on England. He marched towards London, facing little resistance as many English nobles submitted to his authority. On Christmas Day, 1066, William was crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey, marking the beginning of Norman rule. Over the next few years, William suppressed several rebellions and uprisings, solidifying his control over the kingdom. The consequences of William's victory at Hastings were far-reaching. The Norman conquest brought profound changes to England's political and social structures. William introduced the feudal system, redistributing land among his Norman followers and displacing much of the Anglo-Saxon nobility. Norman French became the language of the ruling class, influencing the development of the English language. The architecture of England also changed, with the construction of castles and fortresses such as the Tower of London, symbols of Norman dominance. The Battle of Hastings was not just a victory on the battlefield, it was a pivotal moment that reshaped the identity of England. William's conquest brought England into closer contact with mainland Europe, forging new connections and alliances that would shape the future of the kingdom. The legacy of the battle remains a key part of English history, symbolizing the moment when Norman influence began to blend with Anglo-Saxon culture, creating the foundation for the England we know today. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the 5-Minute Warfare podcast from 5minutewarfare.com. If you get a chance, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, as it will help us to grow. Also, why not check out our other 5-minute podcasts, 5-minute biographies, 5-minute history, 5-minute murder, and 5-minute mysteries. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.